Good evening, everybody. Welcome to First Church, First Center of Religious Science here in New York City. I want to do a special shout out to all of you on Zoom. Our numbers are growing and we're really proud of our success. Lady V did our wonderful opening tonight, so it's really great to see her doing her thing and knowing all is well with her and all of you. I also want to give a special welcome to those of you who are finding us on Instagram and finding us on Facebook and YouTube. Any of you who have friends, you can watch any of our rebroadcasts on Facebook and or YouTube. So please do that. And if you have friends, like some of you have been doing lately, invite them, please. Our goal is to help and reach as many people as we can. Another thing you could do is you could either send them our link, or it'd be better actually if you send us their email addresses or have them send them to us so they can receive our weekly email, our church e-letter. So anyway, glad to see everybody, as I said. Tonight's self-healing class is based upon a few things, mostly Louise Hay's work, but it's probably in the 1990s I encountered somebody she was really a gifted New Thought teacher, and she was always talking about this phrase, release the need for, and release the need for one thing or another. And I want to work with that with you tonight because I know a lot of people get really held back by the subject is called attachments. And I've been a therapist in my life and I've worked with that a lot. I've worked with it with myself also, as much as I've presented groups with other people. Attachments, we want to look at finding ways to release one and all. Anything that's held us back, anything that is still holding us back, so that we can start living the kind of life that we were meant to have. Each of us, I think, come to our broadcast with the desire to live a fuller life, a bigger life, a more creative life, and you can. Dr. Holmes, founder, said there's power for good in the universe and you can use it. So, here's the thing, you are using it now. The only thing is most people do not know that they're using it, and oftentimes we're not using it constructively. So we will teach you how to use it constructively so you can continue your journey and upward and onward and forward. So I want to acknowledge that everybody here, including myself, we've all been through things. We're growing still, and we want to continue to grow, and we want to grow in misery is optional. You hear me say that often. So we can grow, by expanding our consciousness. We don't necessarily have to grow through pain and all of that. Louise Hay, again, who wrote the book You Can Heal Your Life, would say, all is well. So when you come here, most people are looking for inspiration, reminders, guidance, encouragement. And I know, because I listen to people call here a lot now. People are having financial struggles, they're having health challenges, challenges with their relationships, trying to figure out what they ought to do. There is people that are talking to me about, the stress with their jobs and the ever-seeming, prices that are increasing, inflation. And so life, we know, is all about change, and it can throw us what we call curveballs. And so how do we navigate all this stuff, this constant change? So we can answer some of it. The fact that you're here looking for answers shows strength on your part, and also it notes that you're aware that you have power to change a lot of these things. So I want to acknowledge your strength and power for even being here. A lot of people just, I don't know where they go, but those of you who are showing up somewhat religiously, no pun, are here because you really want to have a better life experience. But it's important, I remember coming to Religious Science Center and I'm hearing everybody talk about these lofty things that we talk about. It's important, at least for us, to mention that we understand if you're going through tough times. Most of us have been through tough times. So, but we're here to offer encouragement and to let you know you're not alone. And furthermore, you don't have to stay in those states of consciousness, that you can actually move forward. And so much of it has to do with your thoughts, your thinking, your consciousness. Louise Hay said, with the idea all is well, and we explore that. And she suggested that everything's unfolding perfectly. And we will talk to you more about that. These are not empty statements. These are powerful, powerful statements, truths, that all is well and everything's unfolding perfectly. And even in the most challenging times, and I would say many of us would think that we're living in challenging times. So we go back to these truths that all is well. I used to be told, when this is 30 years ago, everything's perfect. Well, that's a spiritual truth. And it doesn't necessarily always feel that way or look that way, but ultimately that is true. We will tell you in a class, we'll suggest a metaphysical idea that thoughts are things, okay? They're powerful, in other words. And the tendency of thoughts, the tendency of your thoughts and your thinking is shaping your life. So let's take a look at attachments. And this would be our thinking and things we're attached to. I'm going to give you a little quiz, as sometimes I do, a personal quiz. You don't have to write it down. It's just a self-assessment. So I want you to see if anything comes up for you as you answer to yourself, and as I go over a few of these. And just assess for yourself if you think any of these are places in your life that might be holding yourself back. Because the whole thing we're doing here is wanting you to love yourself more, appreciate yourself more, move forward, be aware if there's something that's blocking you, and ultimately we're creating our life. So if you need an inner adjustment or correction, or you need to change things around, you certainly have the ability to do that. So here's the little group of questions I assembled for tonight. Do you in any way feel anxious or upset when things don't go according to plan, your plan? Or do you feel anxious or upset when things change, people don't do what you wanted them to do or you expected them to do? Do you get upset? Or do you get very upset when things don't work out? So just think about that for a second. Next, do you have specific expectations for how your day or week ought to go, and what happens when it doesn't work that way? How do you feel? How do you handle it? Next question. Do you find yourself getting frustrated or even angry when people you've been relying on don't meet your expectations? And that could be anybody. It could be somebody the laundry service, or somebody you do business with. It could be your significant other, your kids. Do you just find yourself does it take too much away from you? And do you get angry? And this, and we're not asking these questions to make anybody feel bad. It's just a self-assessment. Next one. Do you try to control situations? Do you try to maneuver? Do you try to control people in order to get what you want, or to get what you want when you want it? That type of thing. Do you feel, this is next question, do you feel like you can't be happy unless certain people are in your life? Do you feel like you can't be happy unless certain things work out the way you want them to? That's a good question. Everybody here is, we've got all kinds of relationships, right? Do you feel like you're not happy when people, places, and things don't show up the way you want them to. Because people are individuals and they show up every kind of way in the world, and the question is, how do you take it when things, don't go the way you would prefer, right? Do you avoid trying new things or taking risks because you're afraid of disappointment? Do you have a hard time letting go of past mistakes or regrets or relationships? Are you still like hanging on to that person from 6 months ago or 6 years ago? Or are you still berating and belittling yourself for the errors, the mistakes while you've been learning and growing? Do you have a difficult time letting go of people? Do you feel like you need to be right most of the time? This is really an important one in terms of trying to identify attachments. Do you feel like you need to be right most of the time, or that your way is the right way or the only way? Louise would ask, do you have a lot of shoulds in your life? Because that's always an indication of an attachment to having things be a certain way. Next question. Are you perfectly fine with people expressing different points of view? Are you perfectly cool if someone's got a different political persuasion and you're really cool with them expressing how they feel? Are you fine with people expressing their religious views even though they may be completely opposite of yours? Do you have a hard time accepting feedback? Do you have a hard time listening to criticism? Do you take all of that stuff personally? I guess there's a question I would ask next. Do you struggle with using the word no when it comes to your family or your significant other, your friends, your sisters, your brothers? Is it hard for you to say no? Next question. Do you have a difficulty with, in dealing with people, because everybody's coming at you with everything. People they carry whatever they carry with them. Do you have a struggle with people in setting, boundaries, just normal boundaries? Is this a problem for you? So that's my little quiz for today. I put that together for you this afternoon. If you say yes to any of these questions, now these might be indicators that you have attachments, and the questions have been designed to help you recognize these attachments, and the attachments are causing stress in your life, especially if you have a few of things, and you're operating this way often. So there's a whole bunch of stress in your life, and here's the thing I've learned many years ago. I am cause to my own experience. That comes from the science of mind, Ernest Holmes, Louise also, any of them, all of them. I am cause to my own experience. So if I have a bunch of attachments going on, I understand, at least for myself, that the problem is not about anybody else. It's just, this is how I am, and I'm causing myself distress. And I want to find a way to release, relieve, and let go of distress, because if I'm hanging on to any of these things long enough, these mental conditions, I'm going to be inviting discomfort and ultimately dis-ease into my body. Louise would offer this affirmation. You hear this often. All is well. And she would say it's all very simple, and she would encourage you to do the inner work. And that involves reflection. And just like as I asked you these questions to help you identify if you have attachments, this isn't to make anybody feel bad or right or wrong. It's just so you can reflect if there's any area in your life that you need to, or you would benefit from letting go of, right? And not to please anybody here, this is your own internal process. You want to let go of the attachments so you can have and experience more peace, more love, and more joy in your day-to-day living. Furthermore, all these attachments, they can stop you from, living your greater vision and stepping into a world of abundance and joy and happiness. So that's a little quiz for everybody today. I've got another little quiz here too today. Again, I've been working with the subject with people for at least 20 years and maybe longer. And I wanted to research and get the actual definition, because in my mind I know what it is, but I just wanted to see how it would be defined by others. And what I found is attachment is usually refers to an emotional bond or a connection someone feels towards a particular person, object, or outcome. And attachments take all kinds of forms. And most of the time, if you have an attachment, it's somewhat self-sabotaging, including the desire for control, or it can be a need for validation. You've got somebody you desperately want to love you and whatever. And you know, as we're healthier, we know that, you know, Louise Hay would say, self-acceptance and self-approval are the keys to everything, right? But, you know, maybe we're not quite as healthy as that. You know, maybe we haven't evolved to that place yet where we can validate ourselves. So we're looking for a significant other, a parental or a love figure, a love interest to validate us. And so, you know, when we're being other referred, we're looking for other people to say we're okay. That gets problematic. So it gets in the way of our sense of security and our sense of confidence when we're putting our sense of being okay in the hands of others. Attachments can become a problem because oftentimes it'll turn into an attachment anxiety, and which is the feeling of discomfort and or distress that comes up when you perceive a threat. Someone's going to take something away from you, something that you want and you hold dear, and that could be a person, it could be anything. So, and when people are feeling threatened in that way, and they're hanging on, you know, they're not letting go, letting God, they're hanging on to everything. That can lead to behaviors that, in other words, a person can come off be needy and constantly needing reassurance. And oftentimes it also moves in the direction of trying to control other people, or we become emotionally dependent on them or a particular person. Examples of attachments can include, again, the need to be right in just about any discussion, or the desire to control any situation, you know, or to control a person in order just to make you feel a certain way. Or another example would be the insistence of having a particular person in your life, no matter what, or the need for, again, people to behave in a certain way. Raymond Charles Barker famously said, you know, people don't behave. And I talk to you often about his famous sermon, How to Change People, and everybody came, and then he said, you can't change other people. So if you're becoming aware through these quizzes that you're giving your power away a lot because of these types of attachments, and you start to realize this is self-defeating, and it leads oftentimes to conflict, frustration, disappointment, and oftentimes I've known, as I've talked to many people, sadness and depression when things don't go as planned. There was a time in my life where I wanted everything to be a certain way. You know, all had to be my way. And I'm telling you, that's a hellish place to live. So by learning to recognize our attachments and how they impact our thoughts and our behaviors, we can begin to let go of them. We can trade in the lesser idea for the greater. We can learn to develop a greater sense of inner peace and freedom. Now, this involves accepting the reality that we cannot control everything. We cannot and really do not want to control other people if we're healthy, right? I want you to express whatever religious belief you want to. I want you to express whatever political belief you want to. I want you to be whoever you are. You know, a healthy person doesn't want to control anybody. So we can heal our lives by loving ourselves more, by letting go of people, places, and things that need to be a certain way in our minds. We acknowledge our fears and our feelings and our anxieties. And what we do here is we begin to do the inner work. All the work we do here is done in consciousness, by the way. When I was younger, I was always out there trying to be there, do that, fix people, and all that. And, somewhere along the line, I got the message. This is an inside job. So in every instance, I can see peace instead of whatever I'm thinking. I can know deeply and profoundly I am supplied and supported. I can know deeply and profoundly in truth there's nothing outside of me. So as you develop that consciousness more and more, there's a little bit of a detachment that happens for you. You love things and you love people, but you won't need to control them. And you're going to know you're okay no matter what happens. There was an important line I learned probably 25 years ago, which I'm thinking it came from the book. Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. But the idea is let your addictions be turned into preferences. So these attachments, which are really like an addiction, I want this person or this situation to be a certain way, and see, getting all bent out of shape when things don't work out the way you want, that's an attachment. And some people would even say it's an addiction. I think it was Ken Kais, but now it comes to me, but I'm not sure, who said, let your addictions be turned into preferences. That's far more healthy. In other words, I'd like this to work out this way. Or I'd like this person, to be here. But I'm going to be perfectly okay however it works out. See, that's a much healthier person. Because he or she's going to be able to go with the flow, and they're going to be able to trust life that whatever this is or something better is always happening, because you're developing a consciousness where you're seeing the God and good. You know that everything in operation is God and good. So the comings and the goings and the vicissitudes, the changes, the ups and downs, they're not going to bother a person who's done work on their consciousness. And you'll get to a point where you don't take anything personally. That's not easy, but it takes time. But it's simple enough. You'll get to the point, like in the 4 agreements, where you refuse to be offended, because you're going to know everybody's doing the best they can with what they have. So you're just going to you're going to be a very cool person, because you're going to be working on loving yourself. You're going to live and let people do what they do and not take it personally. So let me go back to the lesson. Our feelings follow our thoughts predominantly. In recovery, for me, some 40 years ago, I first heard the phrase, be careful of your stinking thinking. And at the time, I didn't think I was particularly negative. I was kind of young and I thought I was pretty good. I didn't think I had any real attachments. Now I know I had many attachments. The phrase used there is denial. I was in complete denial because I would be upset when things didn't work out the way I wanted them to. And I would be reactive. And I had such strong opinions about everything. So when we come into gatherings like this, we learn how to heal our lives and learn how to find happiness and fulfillment within ourselves rather than relying on external people or places or things to be a certain way. There's a detachment, but it's lighter. You're loving yourself, you're pretty cool, you're letting things go as they go. You realize people are doing the best they can, you're releasing the need to control, and life gets a lot lighter, more expansive, and all kinds of good things happen because you're getting your ego out of the way, and you're letting spirit come in and inform you. Emerson would say the universe is always wooing you. And it will woo you, it will give you guidance if you can get what he said, your bloated nothingness out of the way. And what he was talking about, he said, get your bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuits. So, you exist as a spiritual being, you're one with the one, you have spiritual knowledge and energy within you that's always attempting to give you guidance. So what do I need to do? I need to get out of my own way, because, God or source, higher power, is in me, operating through me as me, and that same power is in you, operating through you as you. So you might have been thinking for some time, and if you're new here, I'm sure this all sounds foreign to you, but If you're here and you're new, you're here for there's no coincidence, you're here for a reason. You might be thinking, I can't change, I'm too old, my life is just too messed up. Or I'm insecure, and I'm hanging on to this boyfriend no matter what, and I'm not going to let him get away. You might say, yes, I'm insecure, but I have this job, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that. And you might be thinking, my health isn't good enough for me to do anything, and I'm too old, and I'm not good enough. I'm going to give you a list here. And you might be thinking, I'll never be successful. I've always failed. I'm too young. I'm too old. I don't deserve happiness because of all the things I've done. And you might be thinking, I can't stand this person. You might be thinking, nobody likes you, or I don't like this political group. I don't like this, and I don't like that. And I'm always going to be broke, or I'm not smart enough, or they're not smart enough. I'm not attractive anymore. I never was. I'm too thin. I'm too fat. I'll never find love. I'll never be able to change. So, this is the kind of stuff that lives inside of people. Louise Hay said the bottom line for everybody she's ever worked with is they don't feel good enough about who they are. And they just feel like they're not enough. And so you try to latch onto something and to make you feel better outside of yourself. And she would lean into the next subject, which is all healing is self-healing. I wanted to read a passage to you that was very important to me 42 years ago. And it was found in a 12-step program. And it really is just as relevant today in this discussion. And it was from the big book, and I'm going to paraphrase it, so I'll get rid of the gender stuff and all that. It's about acceptance, paraphrased by me. Acceptance is the answer to all my challenges or problems today. When I am disturbed, it is because I find some person, place, thing, or situation, some fact of my life and relationships unacceptable to me. And I'm not going to find any peace or serenity until I accept that person, place, or thing, that situation is being exactly the way it's supposed to be at this moment. And it went on to say, nothing, absolutely nothing happens in this world. It actually says in God's world by mistake. And for people with attachment issues and addictions, it goes on to say, until I could accept my problem, I could not stay free of alcohol, drugs, or attachments. And for every one of us, unless I accept life completely on life's terms, I will not be happy. Further, I need to concentrate not so much on what needs to be changed in other people. I need not to be concerned so much on what needs to be changed in the world. And I need to focus on what needs to be changed in me and in my thinking and in my attitudes. So there it is. It's really wonderful if you think about that. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake, and I need to focus on what needs to be changed in me. Many of you grew up in some of the Christian churches, and I'm sure even if you haven't, you recall a well-known verse from Matthew, which I'm paraphrasing again, which is, why focus on what's in the other person's eye and pay no attention to the log that's in your own? Why do you focus on whether people are doing it wrong and you can't focus on what's going on within yourself? See, I recall in my early years talking about what was wrong about everything. I was probably about age 23, 24. God, young and full of everything, and thought I had all the answers, and I could tell you everything was wrong with everything and everybody. We need to turn that around. I told you my inspiration was Reverend Bill Cameron, who said he was studying psychology, abnormal psychology, and got a master's and was going to get a PhD. And he shared with me in a class once, he said, I was like Paul on the road to Damascus. I was hit with blinding light. And I realized, geez, God, I'm doing it all wrong. I'm focusing on what's wrong with the world and people. And what he said, what we really need to be doing is seeing what's wonderful and good about ourselves and about people. So if you stay with this teaching, you're going to turn all this stuff around. You're going to live in a world of infinite possibilities, and you're going to realize that you're caused your own creation. So in these classes, in your meditations, always notice the answers that come up for you. You're always going to hear what you need to hear, by the way. And you might listen to it another time on YouTube or Facebook, and you'll hear a whole bunch of different stuff that'll come up through you, through your consciousness, from spirit to you. From an early lesson, somewhere along the line, I learned, in truth, there's nothing outside of you. So for me, okay, Greg, in truth, there's nothing outside of you. I'm creating all of this stuff. It isn't about these other people. It's about me and my creations. So what needs to change is our thinking. Our thinking needs to be more expansive, more loving, more forgiving. Most of you hear me talk about our inner dialogue as being the very most important thing every Thursday night. This inner dialogue that is so important for you to get a handle on. I ask you, what is it like being you? I never really need to hear the answer personally, but it's a question that you want to ask yourself, because you live with yourself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that inner dialogue is creating your world because your life responds to you. Life responds to me in my world, but I'm talking for everybody. Your life is a reflection of what lives inside of you, your thoughts, your consciousness. So it's important to first realize that there is this conversation you are having. You are involved in what I'll call a sacred conversation, and you're either digging your own hole with it, or you're creating a healthy, more empowered and successful life. I call it a sacred conversation because this dialogue is the one thing. It's the creative agency in your life. It's the conversation that matters the most, and it's what is mirrored in your life. So whatever it is you've been thinking this past few weeks is what you're going to be seeing show up in your life in the days and weeks to come. With all respect, and I say really with a lot of respect, forget the idea of praying to a God above that will save you. The universe, this source, this God is acting within you on every single thought you think. It responds to you. Your wish is its command from the movie The Secret. Life is responding to your every thought. It responds to you. And here's the thing. Once you understand that life is responding to your thoughts and your consciousness, it doesn't get any better than that. That means, my God, I have this power and it's responding to me all the time. And we realize as we get involved in this teaching and learning affirmative prayer and affirmative living, that I am one with this power is within us and responding to us. Again, if you take anything away from this, remember, I have power. You have power, and it responds to you. It doesn't judge you ever for anything you've ever done. So the idea that you got something above that's, got a scorecard, let all that thinking go and know that there is this loving energy within you that's responding to you, every thought you think. You are here in this class, and you're here on this planet, and you're learning that there is one loving energy, and it's within you, operating through you. That you are one with creative intelligence. And again, it's operating through you, it's responding to you. And because of this, you can heal your life. You can heal anything. And you're learning this power, this energy is in everyone, and that everyone is evolving, so you don't need to mind their business. Wherever they are, whoever they are, they're in the divine right place. They're learning, and they're growing, as are you, as am I. So we come back to Louise Hay's statement, all is well. And now we have a greater understanding of what she meant. It's not only well, it's so very good. It's so wonderful. You come here and you're reminded of these truths, that you live, you move, and you have your being in this energy, and it responds to you. Every single thought you're thinking. So you're learning that there is power for good, unlimited power within you, and you can use it to heal your life and change your life. And this power, I remind you, offers you guidance. You might affirm to yourself as often as you need to, Spirit is within me. I am always guided. And I'm open and receptive to guidance and new ideas. Please don't stay in a rut and just defend a position, because it's really not smart. Just say, I release the need for whatever it is, that I've been thinking, and I let it go. And remind yourself, I am guided and I'm open to guidance and new ideas. Because this conversation you're having is so powerful, the conversations that you're having with yourself, I often ask, the question, you're probably tired of hearing me ask it, what's it been like being you? Because I'm wanting you to know that, you can stop in the name of love, you can stop those negative conversations, thoughts, feel what you need to feel, sit with yourself, and be determined to change that whole conversation, that whole dialogue on that, at least on that one subject, around to something much more life-giving. So I ask the question weekly because I want people to reflect on what they are creating. And this might be a new idea for some of you on the call, because there's always new people. When Louise states that we're all responsible, she's saying that we are creating our own lives, thought by thought. And that statement was never made to make anybody feel bad or feel guilty. She was explaining that what we here at the center call the law of attraction, or the law of mind. And she knew very well the power that people have within them. So I'm here to remind you, you have infinite power within you to use. And you can use it, and you can do it. So as we think about it today, we're reminded that there's no one to blame. We're not here to blame ourselves either. We're not here to blame other people. We're learning that everyone, including ourselves, have done the best we could with the information, the understanding, the consciousness we have had at any point in our lives. So let's release our judgments, all of them, our resentments, and all of our strong opinions about people, places, and things. Let's release the critical thoughts we have about ourselves, others, and let's go back to the question at hand, that important question about your dialogue. What's it been like being you this week? And there is no wrong answer. But notice if it's been scary or if it's been great being you this week. Has it been wonderful? Have you lost your cool a few times? Have you been upset with others? I mean, I am routinely, so please don't feel bad if but you want to notice, what's causing it? What can I do differently about it? Most of us on this call realize that we create much of our reality. You hear me say often, very often, in truth, there's nothing outside of you. What I'm saying is everything you experience in the external world is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. The people, the situations, and events you encounter are all shaped by your thoughts, your beliefs, and your expectations. Here's one more quiz for you. It's private, so just be honest with yourself. Are you loving you? Are you a big fan of you? You know if you are. Or do you notice that you're critical of what you look like or what you say, how you act? So are you a fan? There's no right or wrong answer here, but just gives you information as where you can focus. As you look in the mirror and you say, I love, accept, and approve of myself, can you connect with it? Or does it kick up something that's like, no, I just don't like the way I am, whatever. It's just notice. Because Louise would offer this. She would say self-acceptance and self-approval in the now are the keys to all positive changes. Are you there yet? I can tell you straight up, I'm not there yet entirely, but I also know I've come a long way. Next question, are you longing to change? Would you like your life to be more fun and more interesting and light and more creative? So think about what you might want to change. Notice what comes up for you. Try not to make your life about anybody else anymore, what they're doing, what they're saying. That's a big challenge, but that's a little thing I'll offer for this week. What needs to change within you, your thoughts? That might be a good question to think about this week. Maybe you want to be a little cooler, less uptight, more relaxed. Is there something in your life you think that you need to change? You might be saying to yourself, I need to get my act together. I need a better outlook. I need more harmony, more peace. And I'll say to you, okay, you can have all of that. You're in difficult situations with work and relationships. Okay, can that be improved? The answer is absolutely. So we're living in a time where everything's changing, and we want to be living in a consciousness of knowing all is well. And it's easy to feel overwhelmed if you're living in the world and you're programming yourself with everything that's on the news, and you're looking for answers and approval from everybody, your people, places, and things. But we do our work differently. You know, we start from knowing that we're connected with Source and that all is well. Change is inevitable, but we have within us, if you come into this teaching, you practice, and you stay tuned in often, we'll remind you that you have the power to use, you have strength, enough strength and power to meet anything. We're willing to embrace the unknown here with open hearts and minds, because we know every step we move forward is an opportunity for growth and expansion. I could go on another 15 minutes. I think this is like overkill. So I think at this point I would like to just know, I want you to think about attachments you might have, and don't think of them like a dirty word. Just notice if you're working against yourself in any of those areas, and know that you can change. You can release them, and so it is for today.